Oggi si parla sempre più spesso di stampanti 3D, ma concretamente come riescono queste macchine a stampare reali prodotti? La stampante 3D, qui in fase di pulizia prima di essere pronta a lavorare, è ottima nel realizzare quei prodotti troppo piccoli e precisi da essere realizzati a mano. Si parte da un file matematico CAD, in cui vengono definiti dettagli e dimensioni del prodotto da stampare. Il file viene trasferito al software di stampa. Dopodiché, il lavoro della stampante 3D è pronto per cominciare. Il prototipo viene realizzato tramite modellazione a deposizione fusa, abbreviato in FDM. In questa stampante, presente nel laboratorio di modellistica di Scuola Italiana Design a Padova, i prototipi hanno dimensioni massime di 20 x 20 x 21 cm e le dimensioni del filo di stampa, che influisce sulla definizione del prodotto finale, è di 0,24 mm. Dopo alcune ore il prototipo è infine pronto. I tempi variano in funzione del file da stampare. L'uso della stampante non è fine a se stesso, ma è inserito nel contesto del processo produttivo. Non a caso, ottenuto il prototipo in FDM, può essere ad esempio realizzata una serie da massimo 30 pezzi ottenuti da uno stampo in silicone.
Usually there's an instinct, an idea, and when the instinct resonates between the three of us, then we feel like we need to bring it to life. And each time it comes to life, it depends who's guiding this instinct to come to life. So whether it's a pattern who's guiding it, whether it's one of us who's guiding it, whether it's a textile or a technology, that dictates how this idea is going to come to life.
Lovely smell.
By being involved in all kinds of intricate geometry, it required us to go further and further into means of expressing that geometry. So that led us directly into 3D printing, because that enabled us to express exact geometry.
I met Gabby and Dee and Angie through a mutual friend, Bradley Rothenberg, who had been doing some of the earlier work with them, some earlier textile work. I had been kind of exploring patterning systems as it relates to architecture and how you kind of tile space. I have always been interested in how you could do similar things in different design disciplines, fashion, I think, in particular. And when I kind of first met 3S4 and was exposed to their work, I was struck by how they are exploring a similar thing, mainly geometry and how you can kind of wrap a form in it, or wrap the human body in it, in this case. They had a a relationship with Stratasys, the 3D printing company, to do a dress, kind of sponsoring the fabrication of the dress. So when we started, the project was to do a single piece, one dress form.
The most natural way for us to work is to pick a silhouette that we've done before and build on that. In many cases, it may change. In this case, it's a very classic 3S4 cut. We basically scanned a person in real life wearing the dress, and then we had the base silhouette to work from.
We did play with the Z-axis off of that dress. Like, because you're printing it, you're able to add thickness to the surface. So in some parts, like especially the shoulders, it gets bigger in certain areas, and we had to kind of back and forth design the overall silhouette. And fashion function in a geometric case is really about the movement of the human body and how you are articulating that and working with it. And I think all of the pieces are definitely exploring that and interested in that. How you can take a patterning system and apply it across the body and make it change and transform based on the body and on the ergonomics of the body and how the person is moving.
These are the shoulders. 1, 2. That's the chest. See. These are the back pieces here and here. So that's center back here. This is the bottom back. So that's your butt here and here. The moment you create a three-dimensional weave, you start thinking about movement in three directions. So instead of a fabric that is stretching on the XY plane, you have a fabric that is stretching on the Z plane. So XYZ becomes much more agile and much more, how would you say, true to your anatomy type of movement. So the fabric will be able to emulate your anatomy movement much more directly.
How you use technology to reinterpret old ideas is an important thing. There's a lot of different machines and technologies to work with. So the exact dimensional constraints that you have to work within are different for every technology. The specific material constraints, like how thin can I go until it breaks, are very different for each technology. So some of the dresses, like oscillation, for example, was all printed as flat pieces, and it was printed in a rubber-like material so we could bend it into shape. It's really a textile design process because you're printing out the pattern pieces as geometric swatches in a way. And you have to know that when you sew that all together, it takes on a three-dimensional shape.
My role in the 3D printing division of 3S4 is the manos in the machiner part. I'm the one, once those babies come out of the box and we have to clean them with a toothbrush and then lay them out like a piece of puzzle, make sure that everything is correct, and then I try to come in and figure out how to attach the babies onto, something that is like a layer approximate to human skin, but hold it all together, which is usually like kind of like a mesh body shell underneath. And in this case, I used fishing wire. Hold them all into place, because some pieces that are obviously, as you can see here, on the heavier side, really thick and blending into something very intricate and skinny and soft. The contradiction between both materials, which is actually the same material, is just through the variation of thickness. It's like David and Goliath fighting with each other, actually, when they are put next to each other,
The whole process is a lot of back and forth between analog and digital processes. So whether we're playing with paper dolls, scanning that into the computer, or scanning a paper dress on a person, that goes into the computer. We digitally test it, print some swatches, maybe print a whole piece. But along the way, you are always communicating between different mediums.
We're not the first ones to be doing 3D printing, but we felt that we wanted to approach it the same way that we've been approaching fabric manipulation, textile. So we wanted to see 3D printing as a tool to evolve textile making into many steps ahead.
To be honest, I think in general, mankind is not really ready for anything that experimental yet. It's way too out there for the general public, but you always need, you know, the pioneers to take it as so it becomes the norm.
You have to be honest and say that the technology is very far from a point where we'll readily be producing consumer-friendly 3D printed clothes. The need for textiles is like one of the most basic human needs, and I mean, we're always going to need them. It's like, how does the tool allow us to kind of reinterpret what those are, what a textile is, like one of the most ancient human things out there.
The world's first 3D printed community is officially underway thanks to this industrial-sized soft serve machine. I'm just kidding. You do not want to eat that. Meet the Vulcan 2. This 3D printer was made by a company called Icon. It weighs nearly 2 tons and can churn out an entire house in just 24 hours of print time. I wanted to learn more about this machine and what it could mean for the global housing crisis, so I spoke with Icon's co-founder and chief technology officer, Alex LaRue.
What we've been able to do is create something that you just set up once on a foundation. You hook it up to our Magma system. This is our material delivery system that we've built in-house, and then you're off to the races. 3 people can operate the Magma and the Vulcan, so 3 people in total for both machines, and then you're printing a house.
We saw the Vulcan 1 earlier this year in Austin, Texas, where it printed the world's first 3D printed home to be awarded a construction permit. The Vulcan 2 features some significant upgrades, including an app for tablet-based controls, more reliable, consistent, and speedy printing, as well as a secret concrete-based mix called lavacrete.
When you've seen concrete made and mixed, poured into a form, it's doing what it likes to do. It likes to just flow. What we are asking concrete to do is quite different. We're asking concrete to flow a little bit through a hose, but also stand up, right, once we've extruded it. And getting that to happen every single time is a massive technological challenge that we have so far addressed pretty dang well, but I think there's still some room for improvement.
To prove the usefulness of this new technology and bring it to the people who need it the most, Icon partnered with a nonprofit dedicated to fighting global homelessness called New Story. Together, the companies began construction of the world's first 3D printed community in Mexico. So far, 2 houses have already been printed atop foundations, with finishing by workers from a local nonprofit called Échale.
This Mexico project was about as difficult of a project as you can possibly imagine. It's a seismic zone. It's extremely remote. Power cuts out from time to time. There are safety concerns, in this part of Mexico. It's just not very safe sometimes. You put all that together, and it's just like an enormous challenge, not just from a technology perspective, just operationally.
Icon says they're planning to 3D print a total of 50 houses in Mexico with the Vulcan 2. The community is designed for people living on an average income of less than $3 a day, and residents are set to start moving into their new homes sometime next year. If you're like me, you might be wondering when you will be able to buy yourself a 3D printed home, and how much that might cost. But Icon isn't ready to release all that information quite yet.
The big goal is downloading and printing a home in 24 hours for half the cost, 50%. That's kind of the overarching goal here at Icon. We're not quite there yet, but we're making steady progress towards that goal.
Beyond the obvious terrestrial need for more affordable housing, Icon is also one of a handful of companies currently in talks with NASA about potentially designing 3D printers to build structures on the Moon and Mars. Have you seen any emerging technology you'd like to see featured on What the Future? Let us know down in the comments. As always, thanks so much for watching. I'm your host, Jesse Orrell. See you in 2020 with the fam.